was a Wednesday night, and one of our boys groups was out on the playground, and their three leaders were watching the kids running around. And as it is with boys, sometimes it starts to get a little chaotic. Pretty soon the boys were climbing on the outside of the structure, on top of the structure. There was some pushing and shoving going on. And as I walked by, I realized this was going to get crazy if we didn't get involved. And so I walked over. I was like, hey, guys, let's make sure we're playing appropriately on the structure. And as I walked over to talk to the leaders to make sure, just kind of remind them what they were doing, I heard one of them say this, well, boys will be boys. I wanted to smack that boy, right? Okay, but instead I just said, actually, though, it's really important that we make sure we're creating that safe environment for these kids. And just as I finished saying something like that, all of a sudden behind me, I heard a thud and a scream. And I turned around, and I will never forget this. It's the first time in my life that I observed a compound fracture. I saw a boy that had fallen off the top of the play structure, and he broke his arm, and it was in a completely different direction than it should have went, and he was screaming from the pain of it. And at that point, I was reminded how important it is to have structure.
Why do you need structure?
You know, one of my favorite miracles in the Bible is when Jesus feeds the 5,000, where he takes the lunch of a boy and he prays over it and blesses it and feeds the multitude with it. And Mark chapter 6 gives us an interesting look into that experience. You see, first he had the crowd break into groups of 50 and 100. Then he has the disciples distribute the food in baskets. And when they're done, they've got baskets left over. You see, there was structure. There was order to it. There wasn't just people running all over the place. There wasn't like a potluck dinner. Jesus had them get in groups first, and then he distributed the food accordingly. Why is it important that we have structure? Because in order for a miracle to occur, there's got to be structure already set in place. When it comes to your kids' ministry, it's so important that there's structure there. Now, yes, I believe in having fun. I love being the fun guy. But nobody wants to come back to a place filled with chaos where kids are running all over the place, where it's loud and disruptive, where kids aren't able to hear the lesson, where it's scary to even play because you might get run into or run over the top of. You need to have structure in place. I want to have fun. I want to be engaging. I want to build relationship, but there's a structure to it. And that structure can begin with a simple thing like having a plan, putting together an order service, making sure you have best practices that you're actually adhering to. If you want to have a successful kids ministry, if you want to have a place where a miracle can happen, then make sure you take the time to create structure. Hey, this is Pastor Tony reminding you to keep your kids ministry fresh.